Today's video is sponsored by longtime friend and sponsor of the channel, Vite Ramen. And if you guys have been around for a while, you guys are probably familiar with Vite Ramen. I've gotten lots of nice messages from you guys who have tried it, and it makes me feel good to promote a company that I really like, that treats me well, and which sells a good and ethically made product. So, Vite Ramen is a little more expensive than the ordinary grocery store ramen, but it's extremely high quality. You can go on their website and read all of the nutritional information, but it's good for you. It especially has less sodium than most other types of ramen, and it also tastes excellent, especially after their recent rework of their flavors, and you can go to their website and check the patch notes for that, which I'll link down below. So because Vite Ramen loves me so much, they've created an exclusive Eckhart's Ladder landing page, which of course I've linked down in the description. You can go there to not only get 15% off your next order with the code Eckhart's Ladder, but also some free goodies like chopsticks and some other cool stuff. So go check that out. Support Vite Ramen, who have always treated me and you guys, I think, pretty well. Support me and get some delicious noodles, all by clicking the link down in the description. Anyway, on with the content. Hey guys, this is Eckhart's Ladder. Hello and welcome to another video. So, the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order gives us an interesting scenario. It shows us damaged or perhaps even destroyed Republic technology being essentially smelted down or sometimes even thrown away, presumably to help with the creation of the new Imperial war machine. And a lot of Star Wars is actually about what happens with military technology after the war is over. Not only do we have the Empire having to deal with the tools of the Republic, but we have the New Republic in Legends and Canon using Imperial Star Destroyers in various different ways. We have the Rebel Alliance using basically anything that they get their hands on. And just generally the Star Wars universe feels very lived in and like everything has been passed on through multiple generations. But in Star Wars Legends especially, what did the Empire do with the ships, equipment, and items of the Confederacy and the Republic that they recovered after the war, especially the stuff that wasn't broken? That's what we'll be talking about today. And I think some of you might actually be a little surprised just how much the Empire actually did use old technology, especially because we mostly see Star Destroyers and sometimes other ships on the front lines, but that represents only a very small portion of the Empire's assets and a very small look at what's actually going on in the galaxy. For my money, the most interesting and unique use of CIS and Republic ships in the Imperial era can be found in the Essential Guide to Warfare, which has a section on the various Imperial academies which sprouted up after the fall of the Republic. Unsurprisingly, there are a variety of very elite schools within the Imperial Academy system. One of the top Navy academies was the Pressbelt School. Graduates from there might be lucky enough to secure a spot in one of the Empire's elite flight schools. The Essential Guide to Warfare explains that these weren't typically fixed locations, rather most were based on capital ships, including Star Destroyers, Venators, and even a handful of captured Lucrehulks. And let me just say, a Lucrehulk is basically the perfect option for a flight school. It moves, but not particularly quickly. It houses lots of starfighters. It's large enough for basically everything you need for an academy, for lodging, for teaching areas, and much of the systems are probably automated, so you don't need a large crew besides for those actually in the academy itself. The book continues by saying that the most prestigious of the Imperial flight schools was the Venator Flight Academy, which was housed on the Venator class Star Destroyer of the same name. A Venator 2 is a pretty good option. I mean, it's a large carrier, not really needed for the front lines, so you might as well use it for that purpose. To my knowledge, that's basically it for the use of Imperial Lucrehulks at least. The Rebel Alliance, of course, did have their ship, the Fortressa, which was destroyed by the Death Star. And other Lucrehulks would have made their way into private hands, especially to corporations in the Outer Rim, but more likely in their original role as a very large freighter. Just generally, unlike with some Republic technology, the Empire didn't really embrace CIS capital ships, And I would guess this is largely due to how the CIS was portrayed. They were villainized during the Clone Wars, they were seen as aggressors, and had many war crimes attributed to them, whether fairly or not. Then after the war, they were also seen as rebels. There were CIS holdouts in the Outer Rim, which the Empire had to sort of rout out. And afterwards, CIS rebellions remained somewhat active, and many CIS capital ships also made their way into rebel hands. We see this, for example, with Rebel 1, which was actually the flagship of the Rebel Navy for a time. Some CIS ships also undoubtedly made their way into the hands of Imperial Moffs and just high-ranking people, usually used for private militias or defense fleets, and we'll come back to that idea in a moment because it is relevant for Republic technology as well. However, before we do, we have to go back and talk a little bit about how the Empire used Republic tech, because it is different than the CIS. The Empire emerged from the Republic. There wasn't that same connotation as there was with using CIS technology, and we do actually see that Republic technology did continue to see some action, albeit much less, within the Imperial military. Late Republic technology was still used very widely. I mean, a good example of this would be the Venator Star Destroyer, and even the Imperial Star Destroyer was introduced at the very end of the war. Those became mainstays of the Imperial Navy. However, even older capital ships like Venators or even Acclimators continued to see action. It's a very, very large galaxy, so not every planet needs an Imperial-class Star Destroyer. Sometimes a Venator will work just fine, or even an Acclimator. The Acclimator especially, I think, could have had a very good second life as a very heavy troop lander, and I think it would have fit in the Empire very, very well, but that's not really what happened. However, other ships, which I think were less distinctly Republic, like the Carrack, were pretty much just as prominent within the navies of the Empire. The main reason you don't really make this connection, or why sometimes you don't see this connection, is just practically because most of the Imperial era lore was written far before the prequels. I think Star Wars Rebels did a good job of kind of harmonizing that, showing things like the Architens getting a second life, albeit with some modifications. Moving away from capital ships and into other forms of tech for just a second, this trend pretty much holds. The Empire wasn't really using a whole lot of CIS equipment. They weren't even really using the trillions of deactivated battle droids across the galaxy. Again, I think this was mostly an imaging issue, and the fact that Palpatine wanted organic beings directly under his command. Similarly, we don't really see tanks or anything brought over into the Empire, but we do see some ideas make their way into Imperial special weapons projects. Most notably, I think the Dark Trooper, then later the Shadow Droids, which were both cyborg enhanced weaponry. Republic technology and troopers, on the other hand, is a little bit different. In Legends, clones remained a part of the Stormtrooper Corps pretty much throughout the Galactic Civil War, and not only that, but clones were continually produced using sometimes other cloning methods and also other clone templates, often just based on the emergence of very successful Imperial military personnel. I think largely because of the Tarkin Doctrine, the Empire totally redesigned their ground military. We see the emergence of AT-ATs, for example, but things like the Juggernaut and the AT-TE would have continued to see some limited action. And funny enough, the Juggernaut actually gets name dropped several times in Star Wars Legends, including during the invasion of Luke's Jedi Praxium before the release of the prequels, because it was originally designed for The Empire Strikes Back. So that worked out quite nicely. So the other thing I wanted to talk about regarding capital ships specifically was the way Republic technology especially made its way into the hands of wealthy Imperials, who would sometimes make up their own little militias or fleets. The best example of this would be the fleet of the restored Empire under the command of Enix Devian, which we see in Crimson Empire 3 uses a load of Republic-era technology way after the Battle of Endor. Another more well-known example is probably the Maw Irregular fleet, which was commanded by Admiral Dalla. She basically collected whichever ship she could find, and that fleet had Venators and Acclimators, albeit with some upgrades. Besides for that, we just have the vessels that entered service and never really left, things like Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, or as I mentioned, Carracks, or even Victory Star Destroyers. Some of those would go on to serve into the New Republic and even beyond with the Galactic Galactic Alliance. Other fleets, like the Katana fleet, were sought after by Grand Admiral Thrawn, despite being Republic-era technology. So a lot in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something about the Empire's use of Clone Wars-era technology. If you have any further questions, please include them down below. I haven't been able to answer as many as I'd like to lately, but I read almost every question and every comment you guys leave on the channel, so don't stop. Anyway, until next time guys, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.